Good morning and welcome back to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we've got a massive show for you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show today, we are, of course, going to be talking about the takeover. There is a couple of new stories that have come out since we last spoke. We'll also be reacting to the share price dropping by over £600 million in one day. 20% was taken off the Manchester United share price in one day alone, which is a record for this club. It's the biggest drop in share price in Manchester United's history. So, of course, we will be talking about that. We'll also be talking a little bit about the Jadon Sancho situation, about Antony. Also talking a little bit about a couple of other things as well, which we will jump into. But as always, do get involved in the comment section. Do let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed today. And let's jump straight on into the show. So let's start off with the takeover thing, because I know that is what most people are here for. So there's a story coming out from Mike Keegan, who has been very good around the Manchester United takeover. He's had some good stories to this point. You know, I wouldn't say he's a tier one journalist personally, but I think around the takeover so far, he's been pretty decent. And he is reporting the headline. This was late last night. This was about 11:30 p.m. UK time on Tuesday evening. And he is reporting that Manchester United bidders have not been told that the club will be taken off the market as talks with the Glazers continue after £600 million share price drop. So obviously, as I said, £600 million has been wiped off the club's value overnight. On the New York Stock Exchange, and it is a record for the club, which is absolutely mad, isn't it, for 20% of the value of the club to go in one single day. Now, the thing which I think is the most interesting about this story is, right, and I said this to you on Sunday when we reacted to the other story. On Sunday, we obviously had this story come out from the same newspaper. It was a different journalist. It wasn't the same journalist, but it was the same newspaper. And he was reporting that the Glazers weren't going to sell and they were going to take the club off the market, right? So literally within 48 hours, the same newspaper has just completely contradicted itself. On Sunday, it was the Glazers aren't selling, they're taking the club off the market. 48 hours later, the same newspaper saying that the club's not been taken off the market and that the negotiations are continuing. I mean, that's why I always say you've got to take things with a pinch of salt, because on Sunday, everyone in the fan base was at rock bottom. They were saying, oh, I can't believe it. They're not going to sell. It's been confirmed. It's been confirmed. And I was saying it hasn't been confirmed. One newspaper, which I wouldn't even bother reading, has come out of this story. And so what Mike Keegan has said today is the following. As well, I just want to note that the journalist who put out the story on Sunday isn't someone who's really had any good information about the takeover to this point, whereas Mike Keegan has been quite good about it. And he is reporting today, this is the key bit of information which I wanted to get across to you guys. He says, sources with knowledge close to the process add that negotiations are continuing. Both bids were valued around £5 billion mark, which is some way short of the Glazers' valuation. The talks currently are aimed at bridging what is a substantial gap. So it's the same thing as what we were saying a couple of months or so ago, right? They've obviously put in this bid of around £5 billion, Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, neither of which are high enough for the Glazers to accept. So there are now a new set of negotiations taking place between the Rain Group, who are managing the process on behalf of the Glazers, and the two interested parties, which are obviously Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The question is, who bids the most money? That's the big question here, isn't it? Obviously, Sheikh Jassim said that the last one was his final bid. Is it? I don't think so. I think Sheikh Jassim would pay more. Otherwise, he would have walked away from the process now. His last bid was 4 months ago. The bid wasn't accepted, was it? So if I'm Sheikh Jassim and my bid isn't accepted and it's my final bid, I would just leave the process. He tried to double bluff the Glazers, and the Glazers have bluffed him, you know? He said, this is my last bid, take it or leave it. It clearly wasn't his last bid, was it? Because otherwise he would have left the process by now. Obviously, as well, Mike Keegan's included those bits of information that Gary Neville has included in here, where Gary Neville ultimately says that he does think they will sell the club and that they've been treating it like a toy and it's just a game for them. The thing you have to remember, right, with the Glazers, I know we all hate them. I know we all think that they've destroyed our club, which they have. But from a business perspective, this is probably the best business investment they'll ever do in their whole life. You buy something, I think they only put in about 200 million of their own pounds, right, when they bought the club 18 years ago. The rest of the money they borrowed from a bank. So they've put in 200 billion over 18 years, and they're going to be selling it for around 6 billion plus. I mean, think about that just on a business perspective. You don't put any money in it over 18 years. Like, it's absolutely mad. And the fact that they're still clinging on is just crazy. It really, really is. You know, if you've gone from a 200 million pound investment and you're now up to 6 billion and you're still trying to, you know, scrape around the barrel to get a little bit more. It's absolutely mad, isn't it? So the story then goes on to say as well, this is a quote from Gary Neville. It says, it's just a game for them. They think it's a toy. They're desperate for money. Of course they're going to sell, which I agree with. I completely do agree. The fact that, they can't build the stadium's falling apart. They can't now compete with the financial fair play issues because obviously the debt is included in the financial fair play calculations, and we are falling behind the other teams because of our ability to spend money in the market. Our net spend this window was only around £110 million, right? Which isn't actually that much, is it, for Manchester United? We've spent, £200+ million quite a few seasons. And that figure doesn't include people like Eric Bailly, who's just left. Obviously, I know he's just left for free, but that'll be more wages off the wage bill. Donny van de Beek is set to leave as well. There's going to be a lot more wages cleared in the next kind of 1 to 2 days from people like Bailly. Is potentially Jadon Sancho going to go as well? That's obviously an option. There is stories coming out this morning that apparently, Turkish clubs are interested in him. Maybe he goes. I mean, if Jadon Sancho goes, that's £18 million off the wage bill. That's absolutely crazy, isn't it, when you think of it like that? But yeah, my point being here is Manchester United over this summer, although some people will say that we have been competitive and that we have spent money, I don't think we have. I don't think we really have spent that much money for a club that's so far behind Manchester City, so far behind even Arsenal. I would say we're quite far behind at this point. Arsenal spent over £200 million, right? We spent about 110, 120 net spend. And we let go of, I've got it up here, we let go of 13 players in one window, and we only signed 6, and one of them was Johnny Evans as a free agent. I mean, that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? But yeah, so let me know what you think about this takeover situation. When do you think it will reach its conclusion? From my perspective, I just think that the protests are going to get worse and worse, and eventually the pressure will get so bad. If the results keep going badly as well, I mean, if we lost against Brighton in that next game at home, imagine what will happen then. Now, I know rival fans always say, oh, well, you only protest when you lose games. That isn't true. I remember after we won the Champions League, the last time we won the Champions League, there was people holding up Glazers out banners then. Obviously not to the same extent as is now, but there was still people, anti-Glazers all the way back then. So Gary Neville then goes on to say they can't even compete on a financial fair play anymore. Man United are talking like a mid-table club when it comes to the transfer market. Man United turn over £500 million a year, one of the highest revenue generating clubs in the world. And that's the key thing here, right? We make about £600-700 million per year, coming into our club. And the fact that we're having to scrape around the back of the sofa to compete for financial fair play is just an absolute disgrace. It really, really is. But it goes on to say that a source close to a source believes the logic for taking United off the market now is that the family will try to sell again in 2025 when they hope they may attract more bidders. And you know what? I think this is probably the most stupidest decision that they could possibly do, because I don't think by 2025 we'll be winning Premier League titles and Champions Leagues if we carry on the way we're going at the moment. No way. Not a hope in hell. I think realistically this season, top 4 would be an achievement. Next season, top 4 would be an achievement, because it's so difficult now. If you look at the top 10 teams, right? I had to think about this yesterday. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just being honest here, right? We could easily finish 9th this season, and that wouldn't... Obviously, that sounds terrible, but if you think of the other teams that are around us, right? Brighton, I'd say they play better football. Aston Villa, debatably, they've probably got almost an as good squad, play good football. Newcastle, again, very good team, very good squad. And then you've got people like, obviously, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester City, Tottenham. I mean, that's 8 teams that I've just named who I would say on their day would beat us. So, I mean, we could easily finish 9th this season. Easily. And I don't think that would even be... obviously that would be disappointing, but I wouldn't be shocked. If Brighton finished above us this season, I wouldn't be shocked. If Aston Villa finished above us, I wouldn't be shocked either. And my point being here is that I think whilst we have these new owners, I think top 4 is just the achievement is the goal every single season, because anything more than that would be a miracle. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. What is your kind of expectations for this season? And do you agree with the Glazers' logic that in 2025 the club will be worth more money? They're obviously thinking about TV rights, though. I saw somebody saying yesterday that apparently there's talk that in the next kind of 2 to 3 years, right, they're going to start putting cameras. I know Ben Foster did this a little bit, didn't he, when he was at Wrexham? They'll put cameras on their shirts, and you can get a subscription. So you would pay to watch through the eyes of Bruno Fernandes head cam. not head cam, shirt cam, like all of these crazy things that haven't yet happened. But there's so much room for football to be monetized, which hasn't yet been tapped into. And I think that is what the Glazers are clinging on to. They're hoping that the Saudi Arabia money comes into Manchester and they start buying players off us. They're hoping that we get new TV deals. Maybe they're hoping that like an Amazon Prime takeover, and it's like each club has their own individual channel within Amazon Prime, you know, like a £20 a month subscription, and we can watch every single game. Something like that will happen eventually. Andrew says, Kieran, if we finish 9th, how much do you think the club will be worth by then? I mean, if they're getting offers around 6 billion now, I don't think it will be 6 billion or more if we finish 9th. Because obviously if we finish 9th, we don't get Champions League football, which will make our financial fair play limitations even worse. So Manchester United and the Glazers need to get top 4. They rely on top 4. If they don't get that, then they're in big, big trouble. They really, really are. Noel says, apart from maybe 4 players, the rest are championship level. Wow. I mean, that's pretty damning, isn't it? You know what? I get your point here, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I was looking at our squad, and I was like, there isn't actually that many world-class players, is there? Realistically, we've got some potential. Like Garnacho could be a world-class player. Rasmus Højlund could be a world-class player. Pellistri could be a world-class player. You know, there's 4 or 5 players who have the potential to go on to be a world-class player. But we have quite a lot of people at this point who are probably in their prime, and I wouldn't say they're world-class. But let me know what your thoughts are on that one. Let me know in the comment section how many world-class players do Manchester United have at the club at this moment in time. And if everybody who's watching the video could please smash a like on it, and please also subscribe to the channel, that would be very much appreciated. It doesn't cost any money. It's completely free. It really helps out the channel to grow. So please go and do that if you haven't already. Right, so let's have a quick look at the stock price. We're only 21 subscribers away from 17,900. So let's see if we can hit that by the end of today's video. Right, let's have a look at the stock price really quickly. Obviously, the headline that everyone's reporting is this £600 million drop. Now, I had a bit of a theory with this, and I don't know whether somebody could clarify on this situation, but if the Manchester United stock price is really low, and obviously the Glazers only own 69% of it, does that mean that the overall value of the club comes down? So say at the moment, you know, Sheikh Jassim has offered 6 billion, right? And 31% of that portion will go to the people on the New York Stock Exchange. Could this not mean that the Glazers get more money for the same amount of money? Does that make sense? So if it's a £6 billion deal, but the stock price has come down by £600 million overnight, surely that means that the Glazers would get £600 million more, because those 31% of stocks that are on the New York Stock Exchange are now worth less than they were yesterday. They're worth 600 million less. I don't know if this theory is flawed. So if anybody in the chat knows any more about how stock markets work and stuff, let me know what you think. But from my understanding, you know, Sheikh Jassim was going to buy those 31% of shares off the New York Stock Exchange. If those values have dropped by 600 million, he's getting them for 600 million cheaper. Does that then mean that he can say, here you go, Glazers, here's 600 million that I've saved off the stock price coming down? I don't know. Let me know if that makes sense. I might be barking up the wrong tree, but I had a little thought about it last night. And yeah. Chris says, why the hell do we pay 20% more if we qualify for the Champions League? I'm not sure, to be honest with you, that one, mate. I don't know if it's something that other clubs do. I assume it probably is. I guess it's because, you know, more revenue coming in and the players are like, I want more money because you're making more money. We're the face of the, you know, we're the players. I don't know. I can understand if it's like a Brighton or someone and, you know, and they're on really small wages, then yeah, give them a massive pay increase if you get into the Champions League. But for people who are already on like 350 grand a week, you know, I mean, does that mean that Jadon Sancho gets paid 20% on top of his 350 grand a week? That means he'd be on like over 400 grand a week. That's crazy, isn't it? £500,000 a week almost. Somebody says world-class players turn up every game, so I wouldn't say we have that many. Yeah, I'd say Varane definitely is world-class on his day, but he's definitely injury-prone now. The thing that we do have to remember, right, with this stock price thing is, obviously, if we get a story today saying that Sheikh Jassim is going to win, the stock price will go back up. And that's the bit that I don't really understand. Like, is this not stock manipulation that every time a story, positive or negative, comes out, the stock price either goes up or down? That's the bit that I don't really get. Somebody says, if you have not won Champions League, how are you not world class? Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, if you look at our team, we, other than, you know, Varane, Casemiro, and maybe Mason Mount, like, obviously he's won the Champions League. I don't think any of the others have won the Champions League, have they? Like, they've all just kind of been in and around good teams that have almost done well, but never actually fully succeeded. But, right, let's jump back onto the article again quickly. Let's have a look what else was said. So yeah, the headlines are, it says, so the main taking point that I want everyone to hear is that sources close to the deal say the two bidders in the takeover race have said they have not been told that the club is off the market. So we have to carry on with the assumption that the club is still for sale, and all that is going on is that the Glazers are wanting more money. And the current negotiations, these new set of negotiations, are the Glazers trying to bump up the bump up the sale price. Right, let's move on to the next story though. Let's talk about this really, really quickly. I just want to say a massive, massive shout out to Alejandro Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund, who have just been nominated for the 2023 Golden Boy Award. So big ups to them. I would be very surprised if they win it, because I assume there's people like Xavi. There's probably, I mean, even surely Jude Bellingham falls into that category. He's only just turned 20. But yeah, big ups to them anyway. They've been nominated for the Golden Boy Award, so fair play to them. Let me see who else has been nominated as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, so I mean, it's Jude Bellingham's in there, of course. So it's obviously going to be Jude Bellingham, isn't it? Musiala from Bayern Munich, Xavi, Antonio Silva from Benfica. I mean, there's some absolutely quality players in there. Benjamin Sesko, Xavi Simons. Yeah, some amazing players in there. But obviously, fair play to them for getting at least nominated. There's a 100-person shortlist, and they're in that 100-person shortlist. I would be very surprised if they win, though. So yeah, but big ups to them anyway for being nominated. They both did have good seasons. There was one thing I wanted to talk about quickly, actually, because there was somebody on the show last night who was asking about free agents, saying, is there any people we can sign on the market? So I have put together a list for you guys that we can run through together really, really quickly, because I know people were getting worried about the centre-back situations and about midfielders and about strikers, and seeing if there was any opportunities we could take in the free agent market. And you know what? It doesn't look very good, to be honest. It really doesn't. So in defenders, the top ones are Axel Tuanzebe, who we obviously just released, Phil Jones, Ryan Bertrand, and Danny Rose. Those are the four best free agents available at this moment in time. None of them I would take at Manchester United. In relation to midfielders, it's even worse. It's Robert Snodgrass, anybody remembers him, Danny Drinkwater, and that's pretty much about it. There's a couple of others, but they're like championship level players. And then in the forwards category, you've got Andre Ayew, Anwar El Ghazi, and again, that's pretty much it. So there isn't really many options out there in the free market agent, unfortunately. As much as I would love for us to go and get somebody to help bolster the squad in this time of need, it doesn't look like that will happen. So I can't remember who asked me yesterday. Somebody says prices of shares will just rise now. Jassim has offered around $30 a share. Yeah, I mean, it's mad, isn't it, if that does actually end up happening. Mila says some people are earning good money from that sale. Yeah, 100%. I mean, for it to go down 20% in one day is absolutely mental. I don't really do like stock market stuff and all the rest of it, but yeah, it does seem mad to me. I will speak to a couple of my friends who do stuff like that, and I'll see what they think about it, but yeah. Sean says the price per share in the stock exchange is less. The Glazer shares are preferable shares which carry more voting rights and thus are more valuable. Yes, that's right. So there's two different shares. I think it's Class B and Class C shares. The shares that the Glazers have more power. They have more voting rights. So yeah, ultimately the shares that the Glazers have are way more valuable and way more powerful than any of the shares that are on the New York Stock Exchange. So it does make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. Right, let's move over to the next story though. Let me know if there was any of those three free agents that you think would be worth signing. Obviously, I would say no. I'll give you a really quick roundup. The highlights were Axel Tuanzebe, Phil Jones, obviously no way, Snodgrass, Drinkwater, Andre Ayew, and Anwar El Ghazi. It's a no on all of them for me personally. Right, let's move over to this story about Antony really quickly. Now, obviously, Antony has just been dropped by the Brazil team over these allegations from his ex-partner. There is now a police investigation going on in Brazil, and apparently the Greater Manchester Police are also investigating Antony as well. That was what was being reported. I think it was yesterday that the Greater Manchester Police are now working with Manchester United to investigate Antony, investigate these allegations. Now, there's a story coming out from James Ducker this morning, who obviously writes for The Telegraph here in the UK, and he is reporting that Manchester United are now under pressure from domestic abuse charities to drop Antony while he is facing assault allegations from his ex-partner. Now, I did mention this on the show a couple of days ago, and people were saying, no, I don't think he'll be dropped. It's going on in Brazil. It doesn't matter. It's not over here, and all the rest of it. But it does now look like Manchester United are seriously considering dropping Antony from the squad until the investigation is over. Obviously, the the Mason Greenwood investigation took, 9 months? And we still didn't really find a conclusion. The case was dropped. Some people say he's still guilty. Some people say he's not guilty. You know, there's no real definitive answer. I don't know how long a case like this would take. I really don't. But yeah, there's 2 or 3 other stories coming out this morning saying that Manchester United are now considering dropping Antony from their squad after deciding to change behaviour following the decision from the Brazil national team. Another story saying Manchester United are evaluating removing Antony after new complaints from his ex-girlfriend. So it does look like Manchester United will remove him under this immense pressure that's going to come from, obviously, charities in the UK, from the UK press, from the fan base. Because the way I see it, right, if you do this to Greenwood, I know it's a slightly different situation. I know the Greenwood stuff was all put in the public domain for us to see and to hear, but you have to treat Antony in the same way. You can't have rules for one person and rules for another. So I do think that Antony will most likely be dropped. That's what's being reported this morning. Obviously, from a footballing perspective, some of you are probably going to be like, oh, from a footballing perspective, I'm not bothered. I don't like him. I know there's a lot of you in this chat who don't like Antony at all. But I still think he's a valuable member of the squad. You know, if we're looking at it purely from a footballing perspective. At the same time, I do think that giving Pellistri a chance is exciting. And I really like the idea of that. And if he doesn't get a chance with Antony gone, that's a big red flag. Because if Jadon Sancho walks back into that team now, that'll be very, very confusing. Obviously, after what's just happened with Jadon, you wouldn't expect him to be going straight back into that squad, would you? You'd expect him to be on the bench. You'd expect him to slowly work his way back in, to have to prove himself on the training field and all the rest of it. Because at the moment, from what's being reported, he's not even proving himself on the training field. So let me know what you would do. Are you concerned about this Antony situation? Do you think he'll be dropped? Let me know what your thoughts are. Yeah, let me know what you think. Now, there is some positivity here, actually, about Luke Shaw. So there's a story coming out this morning that apparently Luke Shaw is at St. George's Park, which is the England training ground. Obviously, the international break is on at the moment. And he is continuing his injury rehabilitation there. Apparently, he's doing lightweight work and stuff. And he's just there amongst the England squad. So there are people saying this morning that maybe his injury is not as bad as it was, because they probably wouldn't send him off to the England camp. Obviously, he's not going to play for England. But the point being is that he is with the England squad. Obviously, he won't be doing training, but he's doing, gym work, rehabilitation and all the rest of it alongside the England squad. So hopefully this means that Luke Shaw's back sooner than we thought. Obviously, people were saying that it was going to be October, November, which caused a lot of worry in the fan base. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I think that is a positive that he's back. Let's see if we've got any comments. Somebody says, what's your definition of world class? That's a good question. I mean, world class to me is winning the biggest trophies, winning Champions Leagues, winning World Cups, does winning a League Cup count as world class? I don't think so. Yeah, it has to be World Cup. It has to be Champions Leagues. It has to be doing it on the biggest stages in world football. People who fall into that category are world class, in my opinion. And I don't mean people who sat on the bench for a Champions League and got the medal. I mean people who were pivotal and, massive parts in a club winning, a major trophy. That's what world class is to me. But let me know in the comment section, how would you define world class? Give me your kind of reasonings for it. And also let me know how many players at Manchester United do you think are world class? Because I always like to see what you guys have to say on these topics. Right. Let's move over to the next story. I will read out a couple of your questions as well. So if you do have any questions, please do get them in the live chat. And please do make sure to smash a like on the video. And please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're only 10 subscribers away from 17,900. So please do go and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's hit that by the end of today's stream. Where are we? There is some other good news as well. Martinez is officially training with the Argentinian squad. There are pictures circulating this morning of him on the grass in full training. Obviously, he did have a scan on his foot. I think it was either yesterday or the day before over in Argentina, which showed no issues. That's really, really positive because I think he's absolutely essential to what Manchester United are trying to do. Let's just hope that none of our players get injured on international break. That would be the worst possible situation, If Rasmus Højlund gets injured, if Amrabat gets injured, if one of those types of players get injured, obviously that's going to be devastating. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on our players over the international break, and I will wait and see how they all do. But yeah, massively happy that he is playing. Lisandro Martinez is not injured. We've got a super chat here coming in from Jenna. Thank you very much for your contribution to the channel. I really do appreciate it. Jenna says, what's your view on the goalkeeper Onana? I genuinely think he's a buffon with his antics. This is our karma for how we disrespected David De Gea. Thank you for the super chat and thank you for supporting the channel. I really, really do appreciate it. In relation to Onana, I don't want to badmouth him because I like Onana. I think he's one of the top 10 goalkeepers in the world, but I wasn't in that get out David De Gea out of my club, you know, crying when he left because I was so happy. I was actually quite sad when David De Gea left because he just won the Golden Glove for us last season. Yes, he's not very good with his feet. Yes, he made a couple of mistakes. Sorry, not good with his feet. He's not good at distribution. Yes, he made a couple of mistakes last season, but I don't think David De Gea was the problem. And we've played 4 games this season, and I wouldn't say our football's any better than it was last season. So for those of you who say, you know, Onana's going to come in and we're going to win the league, David De Gea is a dinosaur, he's not the modern type of goalkeeper, maybe you're right, but we haven't seen that just yet. Obviously, Onana has my full back in. I think it will come good. But at this moment in time, when we're on this really, really tight financial fair play constraints, I don't think spending 50 million on a goalkeeper when you already have arguably one of the best shot stoppers in the world in David De Gea really made a lot of sense to me. But yeah, let me know how you've found David De Gea's, Onana's play so far. The only thing I will say, right, just to give a fair argument is, obviously David De Gea is a free agent. Nobody signed him. It looked like he was going to go Real Madrid. They went for Kepa from Chelsea, who I think is rubbish. He was going to go to Bayern Munich, and they went for some other person. So there isn't a line of top clubs queuing up for David De Gea, which does make you think that maybe he is past his best. I would probably agree with that. I think one more season of David De Gea would have been a push, but we could have got away with it and then bought a goalkeeper next summer. But at the end of the day, I think Onana will come good. I think what Erik ten Hag's trying to do, you know, building out from the back, you need a goalkeeper like Onana. The only thing I wanted to add to this though, right, which is going to cause a lot of debate and a lot of questions and people's opinions, and that's the whole point of this show. Do you think our defence, I'm not talking about Onana, I'm talking about the centre-backs, I'm talking about the left-back, the right-back. Do you think they're the right profile of players to be playing out from the back? Ball-playing defenders. Lisandro Martinez, I think he is. Varane, yeah, but he's probably going to need replacing in a year or two. Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I don't think they are. And I just wonder whether, yes, we've got this great distribution, amazing ball-playing goalkeeper who's pretty much like having a centre-back in goal. But does he have the players around him to complement him? I'm not sure. And when you're hoofing the ball to Bruno Fernandes, right, who every time he gets the ball, he doesn't lose it every time, but you know what I mean? His ball retention stats are terrible, aren't they? You've got people like Antony, you've got Rashford who doesn't ever pass. I don't think the rest of our team is set up for this kind of dominating ball retention style football. And you bring in a goalkeeper whose number one attribute is, his incredible touch, his incredible elite distribution. But yet, the rest of the team, I don't know if they really complement him. That would be my opinion on Onana. And then that just makes you think, how many more players do we need to sign to get us to play the kind of football that Erik ten Hag wants? You can't just say, oh, well, we signed Onana, we should be playing Erik ten Hag football. But what about the rest of the team? You know, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, Rafael Varane, Bruno, Rashford. You know, 6 or 7 of the people in our squad are not people that Erik ten Hag has brought in. And I wouldn't say they're all ball-playing, you know, dominating type possession-style footballers, are they? Rashford is more good on the counter-attack. He was elite under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when we were playing counter-attacking football. Bruno kind of the same. Bruno would, you know, get the ball in our own area and play a ball through, like a ridiculous ball through to Rashford, and we'd score. But generally, I would never say in the last 3 to 5 years we've been a really ball playing team like Manchester City. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Onana. But I don't think Dallow's a ball playing left back. I don't think Wan-Bissaka is, and I don't really think Luke Shaw is either. I think I like Luke Shaw a lot. I really do. I think he's a quality player, but I'm just wondering whether that's what Erik ten Hag is also thinking, because there was a story coming out last night that apparently we are looking at a new right back. And I just wonder whether the options we have at right back at the moment, Wan-Bissaka I think is incredible defensively, but he's not great going forward. Wan-Bissaka and Antony just don't work together. They don't. They have no chemistry. They've been playing together for a year now? No chemistry whatsoever. The amount of times that Wan-Bissaka will pass a ball thinking that Antony's going to run into a certain space and then he doesn't. Yeah. But that's. I'm not saying that these players aren't good. I like Luke Shaw, I like Wan-Bissaka, I like Varane, I like Martinez. I'm just saying, right, that do you think our whole team, not just Luke Shaw, everybody on that pitch is suited to Erik ten Hag's football? That's the question that I'm asking you. I'm not singling out players. I want you to let me know, because otherwise, anybody who's saying, why are you being negative? This isn't negative. I'm asking you a question. There's a difference between being negative and asking you a question and asking for an opinion. I'm asking for your opinion. So please do let me know your opinions, because the same people who are saying you're being negative will say, oh, Erik ten Hag's style of football, it's rubbish. This isn't what we expected from Erik ten Hag. He's been here for over a year now. So are we blaming this on Erik ten Hag? Or do you then have to start looking at the players and say, are these players not able to do the style of football that Erik ten Hag wants? That's the question I'm asking. And I want you to answer it. I don't know the answer. Let me know what your thoughts are. Somebody says we don't have a midfielder that can hold the ball. It's not the wing-backs. Yeah, fair play. I mean, Eriksen is good at that. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes, obviously he is one of our best players, I think. But the amount of times he gives the ball away in a game is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it, really? Authentic says, mate, we just need to sign right players, simple. But mostly we need physical coaches. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you look at Pep Guardiola's team, like, how many players does Pep Guardiola have that were there before he was there? You know what I mean? It's probably zero now. The same with Arteta. He literally got rid of every single player from the previous regime, didn't he? And like his whole squad now are new players that he's brought in to fit his specific style of football. And that's why I'm kind of bringing up this point. At the moment, we still have players from 2 or 3 managers ago. You know, when you think Luke Shaw was from Jose Mourinho, was it? Or was it from Van Gaal? Who else? You know, there's 2 or 3 players in and around our team who have been here for like quite a long time, innit? Sean says, not the whole team. It is Erik ten Hag's type players. By the end of next summer, we will have an Erik ten Hag team. Yeah, I think we're 1 or 2 transfers windows away from being ready to kind of play this type of Erik ten Hag ball. But I think a lot of work needs to be done. Malp says, we're just a team of OAPs, injury-prone players. We're just a very expensive retirement home. I mean, that's very negative, but obviously that's your opinion. Obviously, you're welcome to your opinion. Yeah, and Sean says, yeah, they've all gone since Pep Guardiola came in. Yeah, that was all I'm saying here, guys, all right? So I'm not singling out players. I think Luke Shaw is one of the best left-backs in the world. I love Wan-Bissaka. I would give him a new contract. I love Martinez and I love Varane. But we're not seeing Ten Hag ball. And are we going to sit here and say that's Erik ten Hag's fault? He can't coach the players. Maybe it is Erik ten Hag's fault. Maybe he's incapable of coaching the players how to play his own style of football. But that doesn't really make sense, does it? Because the whole point of a manager is they have a style of football and they bring in players to suit that style of football. And Erik ten Hag hasn't really done that yet. We've brought in a goalkeeper. We've brought in Antony. Brought in Mason Mount, who's injured. Casemiro, who I think is more of a Manchester United Glazer type signing than an Erik ten Hag signing, personally. He was like a Galactico marquee signing, wasn't he, Casemiro? I'm sure Erik ten Hag said, yeah, great, I'll have Casemiro. But I somehow don't think that he was, his number 1 target, personally. But that's just my opinion. The rest of them were clearly Erik ten Hag's number 1 targets. Onan and Malacia, Antony. We know that he wanted all of those people. But yeah, let me know what you think about that one. Malp says it's true. Somebody says, isn't it time to start looking for an understudy to Bruno Fernandes? I mean, how old is Bruno Fernandes? To be honest, mate, the understudy for Bruno Fernandes should be Mason Mount. Mason Mount's 25, Bruno Fernandes is 28. Like, I would hope that as Bruno starts getting older, I mean, he's only 28. He's got, 4 years left, I think, at his peak. I'm not worried about Bruno Fernandes. His injury record is unbelievable. I think he's been injured for 1 game since he's been at Manchester United in his whole career. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. We've got another super chat coming in from Jenna, and they say, I agree, but what's the point of a high line when our final third is shocking with finishing? We score mostly on the counter-attacks, no real build-up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Jenna. I completely agree with you. We're not saying Erik ten Hag football. For anybody who doesn't know what Erik ten Hag football is, it's 70% possession, it's dominating the ball, it's pinning the other team in their half. Your centre-backs are on the halfway line. We've seen glimpses of it, but we haven't seen it properly for a whole 90 minutes ever. We saw, 10 minutes of it against Wolves. We saw 10 minutes of it against Tottenham. 10 minutes of it against Crystal Palace last season. But that's all we seem to be able to manage. Is it a mentality thing? Is it a fitness thing? Is it that these players aren't suited to that system? When you think about it, right, as basic as the style of football was, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we were absolutely destroying teams, weren't we? we won like, how many games did we win in a row away from home? I don't think we lost a game for like 30 matches, did we? Let me just double check that. Our away record was unbelievable, wasn't it? Because we were just playing counter-attacking football. We'd park the bus. Bruno would play a ball over the top to Rashford, and we'd score. He went, yeah. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer playing counter-attacking football, got 28 games in a row without a defeat away from home. 28. We've played 2 games this season. We've lost both of them in a row. We lost every single game apart from one against last year's top 10 away from home. Now, I'm not saying, the reason I'm bringing in these types of stats is I'm trying to back up what my point is, right? A lot of these players are the same players that we had under Ole. And do you think that's a coincidence that they can play this counter-attacking football and they can do it well? You know, you had Maguire and Lindelof in defence. Like, our team was a lot worse than it was then, and we went 28 games without losing. I know there was no fans in the stadium, which does play a bit of a part in it. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, and it's just one I wanted to bring into the chat and get you guys' opinions and see what you have to say. See if we've got any questions before I end the video. Somebody says, look at the way we've changed over the last 5 years. What's changed? Nothing, mate. That's my point. It's exactly the same. I completely agree. It's exactly the same. And that's why I'm asking you, is it because those players aren't suited to what Erik ten Hag, how he wants to play football? That's the question. You know, he's been here for a year. There'll be people in the chat saying, bring De Zerbi in, bring De Zerbi in. So you're telling me, right, if you bring De Zerbi in, within 2-3 weeks, he's going to get them playing De Zerbi style football? It depends, doesn't it? Because they might not be the right players to play his system. That's my point here. Somebody says, yeah, we used to have 7% possession, which we also complained about. Yeah, I mean, it was terrible, wasn't it? You were parking the bus away from home against Bournemouth and stuff. And like, but football is a results business. Somebody says Erik ten Hag is not going to play the same way as he did at Ajax. I mean, if he's not going to play the same way as he did at Ajax, what's the point in bringing him in? I don't really get that. Where has he said that he's not going to play the same way as he did at Ajax? Like, I'm not sure if that's true. But, I mean, if it is, let me know where you've got the quote from and I'll read it out. But why would we bring in a manager, right? Because we like the style of play that they do. And then when they come, they go, oh, thanks for giving me the job. I'm not going to play that way anymore, though. You'd be like, what? Like, that doesn't really make any sense, but maybe you're right. Sean says we threw away a win at Spurs last year from 2-0 up. Yeah, mate, we did, yeah. Mr. L says, I worry about Bruno's mental state when he gets tired or exaggerated with teammates. His football brain switches off when things don't work out. Yeah, I hear you. Authentic says, Erik ten Hag brings his strategy like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, but without starving, nothing would change. Even if Erik ten Hag, De Ligt and our players. Not sure what you mean there. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely fair, obviously that season under Ole, there was no fans in the ground. That will have made a big difference. But still, it does make you question it, doesn't it? Are these players capable of playing Erik ten Hag football? That's the question. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just asking for you guys' opinions. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think this set of players are capable to do the job? Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. We've covered all of the topics. Oh, God, I nearly knocked the mic over. We've covered all of the topics for the show this morning. I'm just going to check if there's any breaking news or anything before we end the stream. No, I'm just seeing a nice picture of Lisandro Martinez doing the thumbs up on the training pitch for Argentina. That's nice. Just double checking if there's anything else before we go live. No, so it's mainly just pictures of Lisandro Martinez. But please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section about the takeover, about the Antony situation. Also, let me know your opinions on whether you think the set of players at Manchester United are the right fit for Erik ten Hag's football. I will be back, of course, later at 6 p.m. with another live show. If anything breaks during the day, of course we do go live. Please do smash a like on the video on your way out. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran, and I'll catch you all later.